Okay, so this is the first video in probably what should be a sequence of videos talking about MEL, or Maya Embedded Language within Maya. So MEL is the scripting language that you use inside of Maya. This is pretty much what is responsible for the majority of everything that you do inside of Maya. If I go ahead and create myself a sphere, automatically information comes up in my script editor. The script editor, of course, can be found here. We'll talk more about the actual script editor and functions in a later video. If I look at this sequence of commands, this is what was used in order to create the sphere. And you can pretty much read these things. It's not as if it's difficult to figure out what it says, unless, of course, English is not your primary language. But it says create polygon sphere. And you'll notice certain things with the way that things are structured. It usually starts off with a lowercase, and then every sequential word after that will have a capital letter to separate it. So poly, sphere, and then we have these different things which we call flags, and so on and so forth, leading to the end statement here. So I take this and I go ahead and I'm just going to middle mouse button drag and drop, or I could Control C to copy and Control V to paste. Bring them down here and you'll see that they show up and colors will change, and I can use these, of course. Let's just delete this. To grab this, Control Enter, and of course that repeats the command, which of course repeats the function. So we can use this for a number of purposes inside of Maya by simply grabbing any kind of command that we find and then making subtle modifications or just combining them together in order to create a sequence of events. So this is the power of using a scripted language within Maya. But in order to use it, we have to first understand how we can use it. Which brings me to my next point. Any kind of scripting language or programming language is essentially a grammar Nazi. Imagine the worst possible teacher you could have, where if a single comma is out of place or you slightly use the wrong grammar and bam, failed. You do not pass go, you do not collect $200. That is it. It's over, it's done. And this is the way that a lot of programming languages work. If you put anything out of place, you forget to end the statement properly, Maya will not accept your request. So you have to make sure that you learn how to ask questions the right way and that you're very specific about grammar. The second thing you have to know about any kind of scripting or programming language is that you have to be very explicit of what you want. In the case of, let's say I asked a computer, hey, I would like a glass of milk, and provided it actually had some kind of limbs and hands and whatnot, I would still have to tell it, stand up, take 20 steps forward, turn left, grab handle, pull on handle to open door, let go of handle, reach in, put arm forward, turn to side, grasp milk, lift up, and so on and so forth. Every single agonizing step of the way, you have to pretty much tell it. There are some things that make life a little bit easier in the case of a scripting language, where things may already, certain actions may be composed together, and you can just apply a series of what we call flags and make life easier. But for the most part, think of the likelihood that you not only will have to tell it properly, you also have to make an effort and really tell it all the steps it needs to do. So in order to be able to do that, of course, we have to understand the essential grammar and language of MEL. Grammar across different programming languages will be slightly different. Certain things like Python, it's really particular on things like indentation in order to know when you're finished asking a question. Much like you would put a period or a question mark or exclamation point at the end of a sentence in order to let the person know that you're done talking. With MEL, the end statement really comes in the form of the semicolon. And the semicolon cannot be ignored. You have to put it in. And much like a full colon, which if ignored means you'll actually poop your pants, The semicolon is probably one of the more important things that you have to remember inside of Maya. No semicolon and it won't run anything, it won't do anything. So the next things that you want to be concerned with are things like the types of variables that you can give, types of pieces of information you can give it. So one of these is a string. The string is simply a collection of letters or numbers with only specific meaning. So they could be names or things like 1, 2, 3, 4, but 1, 2, 3, 4 wouldn't have an actual value. It's not being considered as 1,234 overall values. It's just like a label. So strings are just that. The int or integer. And an integer is a whole number which is either positive or negative, and it has no decimals or fractions. So just as you see here, and on into infinity. The float or floating point refers to the decimal place. So the decimal place kind of floating from one location to the other. I used to think this was something really cool, floating point math. Oh my God, it means, you know, this floating point in the center of the universe and everything's being calculated. No, it's just a decimal place moving from one point to the next. So that is floating point. Now the other one, I just throw it in because it's cool. And it's just another variable type that you can put in there. So we can define a matrix, which is essentially just a 2D array of numbers. It's not something I really use myself. I don't do really complex MEL coding, which is why I'm doing a beginner series and not an advanced series. But it's just a collection which you can make use of. Now the term variable, which is going to be thrown around quite a lot. And the variable is, in Maya, just sort of a basket, something that you can use to contain things. And it always starts with a $, and you can fill in whatever kind of variable name that you want. So things like $obj for an object, or $selection, $bling, if you want to count how much money that you have at the end of the day, because you can use MEL to do just about anything. It doesn't have to be used to create polygons or help you create rigs, etc. You could use it for just regular math stuff if you really wanted to. I don't know why you'd want to, but maybe you do. So really it doesn't matter what you put in the end here, as long as it starts with a $, and it's something that's easy to make sense of. Anytime you're going to be making any kind of variables in your code, part of what you want to do is, add things like comments to your code to let people know what's going on, or even let yourself know. If I haven't been looking at code for a really long time, which often happens to me, I'll do it on occasion when I really need MEL to do something quick. And then I'll come back to it and I'll look like, oh, what was I doing here? Oh, I don't remember. And so things like comments and intelligent names for any of the variables that you're using will help a lot in that case. Another term that you hear a lot will be the array. So the array is things like any kind of ordered collection of values. They can be ordered in the case of like a matrix, or they can be just ordered in a long string of variables. They can be a collection of names, a collection of numbers, etc. And they're just ordered in one fashion or another. In the case of the variable, in order to know that it is a variable, usually the square brackets are what you use in order to identify that. Which brings me to the next point, brackets. Brackets are used in different ways inside of Maya. The square bracket, of course, is used in the case that I just showed you, which is to define any kind of variable as an array. If you do something like a string, for example, strings are usually used for a collection of values, and so automatically you should probably put square brackets at the end in order to make sure that Maya knows that you're going to be collecting a number of different names or labels into that space. The curved braces are used to contain either variables, like I said, like the $, with some kind of name, in order to add them together, or it can be used to do basic math, just like you would do for BEDMAS or BODMAS if you did that in high school. So just a way to contain the collection of things. And so you can add things very easily together, like one variable, another variable, and put a plus in between them, and they'll be added together, even if they're names or numbers. Another thing that these curved brackets or braces are used for is in the for loops, so loops that we'll talk about in another video. And that's usually just to define the very beginning part of the loop. The curly braces are used in the bottom part of the loop, and those contain all the actions that you wish to loop or repeat. Next we have the quotations. Now, I decided to put this as something rather important, especially showing you the keyboard in this particular case. Most people know where to find the quotes, but this thing, it looks like an apostrophe or a comma. It can be a little bit confusing, and these are used to contain commands, any kind of instructions you want to give. So if you wanted to tell Maya some kind of thing like create a sphere or whatever, but you wanted to put that inside of a variable, then you put these little mini quotes around it, and they're stored on the tilde key. Anything else, usually you want to affect attributes on shape nodes and stuff like that, they will come inside of the regular quotations. So those are the initial basics of the grammar for Maya, and remember, of course, the semicolon, the ultimate feature inside of Maya, stored right there. In fact, I can just zoom in on that a little bit by holding down Control and using the wheel mouse. That semicolon is, again, your best friend. Remember that. And I'll see you in the next video.